Hello and welcome to the dive presented by the first annual Divey Award.
Not annual, it's splitual because it's gonna be every split.
It's annual.
It's splitual. It's
No.
splitual.
Annual is once a year. Splitual is once a split.
I don't.
It's a
I want him to
technical
be for the
definition.
year.
Well, you should have been involved in conversation when we decided this earlier. You were too busy looking at your phone.
That's true. I'm sorry. I've been working for 2 months on this action sequence that just came out, and I wanted to promote it.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yep, you learned your lesson now.
First Splitual Dive Awards.
Yeah, it's a splitual. You have to do this now twice
You know,
a year
you
instead of
guys
once.
kept saying that, and I thought you were like referring to some. It was trying to connect it to like Yule time, and it was gonna be like tied into Christmas or
Not
some
annual,
shit.
it's splitual.
Splitual.
Yeah,
All right, well, welcome to the Diveys. Regardless, I'm actually very
Get
excited
your
for this.
champagne.
I don't
Yeah,
have
get
my champagne going.
class it up here. Azael has pre-poured his,
What is in yours, sir? What are you drinking tonight?
which is good because he actually
Just
spilled
straight
it.
vodka.
What is it actually?
Water.
Just water.
That's so smoothie. That's
Oh, these
smooth
actually
pour,
look-
Mark.
I've never poured these outside of the can, but they look gross.
Ew.
That's
Does
like
look gross.
sludge.
Bro,
Yeah.
you're drinking swamp
Kind of
water.
looks like, yeah, it does look like swamp water.
Hell yeah. Well-
Cheers, boys.
Cheers. Azael's looks the most classy.
What do you mean? Mine looks awesome.
What do you mean?
Look at ours.
Yeah.
You look like you're drinking salsa verde. I'm drinking.
All right,
Would actually be delicious.
I'm actually really excited about this. This is something that we've wanted to do for a long time. And we actually kind of got organized to do it. Going to do some fun awards for End of Split. Obviously, there's the LCS awards, which are a bit more of the, kind of like serious ones. But these ones are going to be far more prestigious.
I was going to say,
This must be Elise's personal trophy, by
What does
the
it
way.
say on it?
Congrats on adulting. That feels like him / one of his friends
Gave it to him.
jokes to each other
Yeah.
for sure.
I would say that these are more prestigious than,
Well, yeah, they're much more prestigious.
because the other one,
Just less serious, perhaps.
how many people have won a like all pro?
Oh, tons.
Tons. How many people
Yeah,
have won?
like 20.
Can't even count them.
Yeah.
How many people have won best individual performance this?
From this first Splitual Diveys.
Yeah, no one's won it before.
No one's won it.
Nobody's won any divey of any kind yet.
Yeah.
We've got them right here, baby. So shall we get started?
Well, let's get started.
All right, I'm excited. The first one I will give out. Best game divey. And the winner is... I gotta break my star. Oh my God. I have it here. The
Who is it,
winner,
Kobe?
the winner of the best game, First Splitual Divey, is CLG versus FlyQuest. Congratulations! Congratulations!
Aw, man.
CLG versus FlyQuest is actually the longest game of the entire year, but since these are Splitual awards, it was the longest game of the split. And we've decided to truncate that award, but it was actually so exciting. We had all of the dragons, multiple elders. We had, base race ending.
It was like 40 kills in 45 minutes or something. It was
Yeah.
insane. It was almost.
Well, it
I think
wasn't a
over.
base race end. It was teleporting into the base after pulling them out to the
It was a
Baron.
backdoor, but it was an intelligent backdoor too.
It was actually such an exciting game. Also, if you guys are audio only listeners, we are actually going to have some video components to this episode. So if you want to see some of the plays and highlights that we're talking about, there will be a video component on YouTube. We're not going to be like directly referencing it, so don't worry, you're not going to be missing out too much.
Your mic's going down.
But if you want to do that, check it out on YouTube for sure. That it was such a, I mean, especially the ending of that game was so much fun though. Like basically, baiting Philip into TPing to the Baron because they have supers pushing top. He has to answer that wave, push that out, or his Nexus turrets are going to be in trouble. And as soon as he TPs, it felt like it was pre-planned, right? Because it was just the instant, no hesitation, double TP to the base, able to close it out. And CLG had some really, really exciting games.
Yeah, and it actually, in their interview afterwards, they were talking about it. Doglu was split pushing, and Contracts is the one that says, hey, Palafox can teleport also. And he's the one, bringing it up and making the call for the double
El
teleport.
Contracto.
Which is really cool to hear because it wasn't even like, oh, they baited this like weird play. It's like, oh, here's my chess move. I force you to go here. You have to come respond to us at Baron. Exactly. Here's check. And then boom, checkmate. And it came down to like 2 more autos.
Yep.
Azir would have died with like 2 more autos that could have saved the Nexus. So the calculation was actually extremely close. But you know, they had that worked out. They had that worked out all the time. Just they drew it up.
It was such a cool game the whole way to get there too. Because sometimes you get those crazy endings and you remember like, wow, what a great game. But then you go back and rewatch and you're like, I'm kind of bored. Not the case with this game. You will be entertained the entire way through. Yeah. That's why it's a very deserving winner to me.
Okay. Well, our runner-up for it was actually another CLG game. The CLG win over Evil Geniuses. Also a banger. Up to that point, Evil Geniuses had not lost a game.
Yeah, it was their only loss in the first half of the split. Went 8-1, if I'm recalling correctly. Yep. You know, and it was also really, really cool because it felt like, to me, that was the one. I mean, CLG had been doing well already, but that was the one where it was like, oh, maybe they're actually a contender. You know, like this was a really big win against a team that had not lost yet. Yep. Jojo Pion, I think, had the interview right before that. They were talking about how I want to go undefeated or whatever. You know, so it was like
good timing on that one.
You know, it's one of those situations where like, okay, like, you know, EG's going off, like CLG's probably gonna get slammed, and they have this really exciting kind of back and forth game where they're actually able to be the ones to take them down. You know, it's not TL, it's not 100 Thieves. It is CLG. And funny enough, I feel like even in the past, when CLG was bad, they had some of those games where like they seemed to be the one who would like take down the big dog. I remember one against like TL when TL was absolutely going off like a couple years ago, where CLG was the first team to beat them in an undefeated run as well.
The other thing too is it was a game where CLG looked like they were going to lose it. They were like had to have a Nexus defense. It was super back and forth the whole time. And then Contracts had that crazy like push down mid lane. It was just really, really funny game that was, again, entertaining the whole way through. So I think CLG was, you could say, probably the most entertaining team to watch this split as well. They had the most like banger games around.
It was the coolest. I mean, I am definitely biased. Yeah. But the story is actually so cool.
Did anyone check the votes on that? And Kobe just opened it up. 2 CLG games
He's
win.
like, listen, I have
trust me, guys. It says CLG right here. But obviously, I was one of the believers in them from the very beginning. True. And this was the moment that this game was the first one where I started to be able to talk shit.
Yeah.
And it was funny because
your belief stopped being delusional at that point.
Exactly. Everyone was like, oh shit, he's not crazy.
He's believing in CLG again, whatever.
Yeah, but,
okay, grandpa.
But then it was funny because after this, the haters started to come out like the couple weeks after they started to drop some more games. And people were like, never mind. It was just that one, you know, Kobe, you're not going to get us again. And it wasn't until, you know, then they also had taken down Team Liquid that we got to like bolster the argument, I guess, of the story. But we had so many, you know, cool stories this split. And, you know, this was certainly like the bad news bears, you know, triumph arc, basically one of them. And it's always cool to see that, especially from a group of players that have, you know, had to put in so much work. Multiple players on that team have been demoted back to academy, worked their way back up to starting LCS spots. So
that's the coolest thing to me. It's not just that like, oh, CLG's good again, like imported a bunch of people and whatever. And like,
exactly. Did not import.
You know, like they're playing with a lot of players that people had kind of written off, right? Like myself included, right? You know, I power ranked them very low. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was
10
like
for me.
I can look at them right here. Yeah,
we'll get into that later.
We'll talk about it later. But like I was completely wrong about them, right? I was completely wrong about them, and you know, I'll eat my humble pie on that, and I'm glad to be, because they turned out to be so much more interesting than I thought. You know, Palafox was way better. Contracts improved enormously. Dokla is enormously better than I remember him being last time he was in the LCS. Like, these guys stepped up so much. Luger and Poom, I think, were kind of maybe the closest to what people expected. But yeah, it's just so fun to watch.
Not only were they better than you thought, they're just so much more. The games are so exciting. Yeah. Even with durability patch, you could count on the CLG games to be like, oh my God, why did he go for that dive? I don't care, because it's funny. You know, somebody's dying.
Or it didn't.
Either it worked or it didn't. Either way, it's funny.
I think the slow of like people getting on the bandwagon, I was not quite early adopter like you, but after week 1, I believed in CLG. After that 3-0, I was like, okay,
it's okay. We accept all newcomers to the faith.
And then I started having to push back on the other people who were like, it was just like constant up and down. People were like, no, they suck. You can't believe in them, because they dropped a couple in the build and they started winning again. Now it's everyone believes. And now they're going to have to play in
the
playoffs.
Roller coaster.
Yeah. All right, Mark, let's get the next award here.
All right, moving along. This next award is the best play of the split. So this is a single play. And the winner is...
That's that champagne. What year is it?
It's about 1882 here by the color of it. A little sledgely.
The key is to leave it uncorked so all the bacteria can get in.
Adds to the depth of flavor.
It's so deep. Anyways, the best play of the split goes to Revenge on Aatrox versus TSM, turning around a critical fight. Looked like he was going to be all dead. Finds
Looked like he was gonna be
all dead. He was going to be all kinds of dead. And then he made them all kinds of dead when he turned around with Aatrox.
It's the revenge to you after that play.
Looked like he was going to be all dead, and then splat. He just healed for. I think we went over it in the replay. There were like 3 separate over 500 HP heals.
Yep.
One of them was almost 900, I think. But the massive gore drinker to start it off. He also got a massive third hit of Q. The empowered auto as well.
Yep.
That's definitely one of those dreams that when the designers talk about designing champions and they're like, the champion fantasy.
Yeah.
What is the champion fantasy that you're aiming for?
Healing for 18,000.
Exactly. When you're playing this champion, they're like, well, he's this, demon sword blade thing.
He's the world ender.
Exactly. World ender. You want to 1v5, heal off the entire team. And I was like, well, that's your promo video for the Aatrox, fantasy.
I mean, anytime I think about Aatrox highlights, I think of the shy, that play versus G2, and now I think of this play as well, right? It's one of those that's like, it was so shocking. It looked like he had gotten caught on a pick. I can't remember exactly.
He had, yeah.
It was like
I can't remember exactly what the CC was to hit him, but like he got CC'd. They tried to 100 to 0 him. Mm-hmm. He's down to like 5%, if not lower than 5%, gets the ulti gore drinker off, and then just goes nuts, right? And it was one of those plays where it so easily could have been just instantly dying and nothing happening. But he is able to survive. He's able to turn it around, and those are those plays that are just like so exciting because they're so unexpected, so shocking.
And I mean, at that point, it gave a little bit of hope to IMT fans because they were able to win that game versus TSM at that point. And then they had that 0-2 week, and you're like, oh, maybe they can make the run or not. Didn't end up doing it, but this was a
Revenge had a bunch of like good individual kind of games that they strung together for a while there too. There was some definite hope building there as well. Yeah, definitely agree.
All right, so the runner up was the Berkserker Penta on Zeri versus FlyQuest.
I actually voted for this one for number one.
Hotly debated for, I think it was 1 second. And then Kobe said, okay, you guys won.
It was hotly debated. Yeah. And then both Mark and Azael voted for the Aatrox one, and Azael tried to start explaining the reasoning, and I was like, I don't care. You voted me.
Here's the entirety of the reasoning. Zeri has 33 pentas in pro play this year. I forget the stat.
Yeah, but
it was super well played.
But Berkserker played this one really well,
That's
actually.
why it's on here, because it wasn't one of like the limp Zeri pentas where you get it for existing.
Yeah.
He did have to outplay because his front line got blown up.
Exactly.
Yep. So. And he played it hyper aggressive too.
Credit for Berkserker.
What I really, really liked, like it has him flashing forward into the team when it's like, multiple people still alive. It's not just one of the trash cleanup ones.
Yep.
Where, he's DPSing behind a front line and like, getting some last hits.
Yeah.
He actually put out an incredible amount of damage. He played it right to the limit of his champion, getting very aggressive, had a really kind of like clever E where he's like eating sideways across the wall to get more damage out. This was just so well played mechanically. And I think it really kind of encapsulates, Berkserker as a player and why people are so excited about this guy, because his team fighting is just absolutely on point.
Yeah, I think it's indicated by people's reaction after the play. People after this were going, "Oh my God, Berkserker!" instead of, "Oh my God, I hate Zeri.
Yeah.
F this champion." Like that is a very real reaction. That's after a lot of Zeri, penta kills.
Zeri kicked up.
I got to reuse my Danny one from his Baron Penta where I did the Invader Vi meme. I just like basically copy pasted this.
Oh yeah, I saw that. Yeah, it was really good.
I said I was going to do it for every Penta that happened.
You definitely didn't.
Well, there's only been one.
The Johnson one.
So the Johnson one happened, but that one was so lame, and it took like 45 seconds.
So you're biased against Johnson.
No, I'm biased against lame Pentas, where like you're like to the cleanup point, like that was one where he's just like his whole team's just wiping them, and he's like doink, doink, doink. Yeah. And on top of that, it took like 45 seconds. I can't make the video. I'm going to just repeat the chorus of 30 Seconds to Mars like 4 times as he's like running up the lane like, ah!
You just jump cut. Do like a
That
little.
would've worked.
I'm
360,
taking away
you know?
from this that Mark did not stay true to his word.
I will do it again, but I saw that one. I thought about it, and I was like, that was so lame.
It wasn't that cool of Penta, I will agree.
Yeah.
It was in the like LoL Esports top plays or whatever, though. I saw it on Twitter.
I mean, for the week, sure, it was a penta, but
It was a Penta.
I'm not going to spend 20 minutes.
It
making
certainly-
a video.
You won't take away that from it.
Of all the pentas, it
was
certainly
one.
was one.
Yeah,
Speaking of award shows, this is one, Azael.
Yeah.
Your turn.
true.
Of all the
Though
presenters,
some may debate it.
Some may say, is it an award show if there's no actual award?
excuse me, this is the award right here.
You have to give that out
There
now
may be awards that
contractually.
just haven't come yet, Mark. All right. For funniest play of the split. Dun, 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 dun. This one goes to River and Inspired in Dignitas versus EG. River invading Inspired on Poppy, and Inspired tries to Poppy out River, but accidentally hits his own red buff too.
Yeah.
So the red buff and River land in the river, and then River just kills the red buff and like hits him with a thumbs up or whatever. I think he hit him with an emote. It was just such a goofy looking play, trying to stop this invade, and it seemed pretty clever, but just the edge of the Poppy all hits out the red buff too, and just ends up giving over the free red buff.
I was casting that one. I was cracking up because Poppy is, and deservedly so, the #1 jungler right now. And these ults can be just so game changing. You hit 2 people out for a team fight, 3v5, all these things, and then this is just
Well,
a delivery and an escape all in one.
it's also just that the animation of a Poppy ult in and of itself is funny.
Yeah.
Like the bonk going right up and just woo, and have it be the 2 people and him landing right next to it. Like, oh, this is what I wanted anyway. And I'm out of here. So yeah, it was pretty funny.
Definitely a good one.
I really am such a fan of abilities that like have the highs and the lows. You know what I mean? Like they're really fun to watch in pro. Like Bard ult,
yeah.
Poppy ult, ones that like you can actively grief or completely win a game with it. So
You're a fan of trolling your own team. I
am.
This does track.
Yeah.
Most of Azael's story about his previous gaming experience are also about trolling people and how much joy it gives him.
Oh yeah, it's fun.
Funnily, here I have the runner-up. I've got the runner-up right here, Azael. It says so.
Interesting.
Oh wait, you can't see the inside. Excuse me.
I like how you stole Azael's award.
Well, we weren't moving it ahead. I gotta move it ahead.
All right, runner up here was the missed Bjergsen Azir shuffle onto Aphro.
Hey, how'd you know? You don't have the envelope.
Aphro then starts emoting and just staying around on the Bard or whatever, and just ends up dying on auto attack.
Okay, he emoted him with this emote. Like shocking. You just missed another Azir ult, which is funny because Bjergsen had missed all of his Azir ults this game.
It was the best Azir that didn't land an ult.
Yeah, and then Aphro's still just standing there, and then Bjergsen's like, all right, fine, I'm still right here though, and just 3 shots him with the autos.
It reminded me a lot of a play from Spring with Summit, where I think it was against 100 Thieves, I want to say, where he like narrowly outplays and escapes this closer gank, and then just
walks back up the boomerang.
Yeah, walks straight up.
It was a
back up
Narverse
5%, and then just dies. And you're like, bro, how cocky can you get?
I was casting that one also. It was actually ridiculous. He dodges the crazy Lee Sin, ward hop flash, Q and stuff. Oh my God.
I feel like there were a lot of funny plays this split, but it's harder for me to recollect them than hype plays because that you spend a lot of time like talking about and, oh, that was so cool. I really struggle to remember all the funny things. I know Jose Dioto had a lot of funny stuff of
Take notes.
to take notes whenever he'd miss a Q or have like an insane insect. If there's any that we might have oversighted, feel free to leave in the comments.
Leave your award list. In the comments.
Yeah, we want the full award list, not just for funny plays.
You don't have. That's a big burden. You can do whatever you want. You're a commenter on
award
YouTube.
list.
You do whatever you want, anyways.
No.
They don't have to do any of these. So.
I know, I agree.
As
That's
far
what
as
they
the
meant.
burden,
I especially want the funny play ones because I always struggle to remember those more. So especially any funny plays.
Oh, our producer says he'll feature interesting funny plays next week. So if there's a good one that you put in there, maybe you'll get it in the episode.
I'm not actually reading your comments. I'm just doing this for engagement.
Well, our producer will read them. And I'll read them too, Mark, because I love our fans. All right. Let's go to the next play.
Best individual performance. So this is a single game performance, not like an MVP or all pro. It's just like, wow, that one game you turbo stomped.
I mean,
That
Yes.
one time there.
That one time there.
also the wording is just best individual performance, so it actually doesn't have to be a game.
True.
True, but
But this one is.
it was. In this case, we all unanimously agreed that was our interpretation. So, the winner is Bwipo's Sett versus Evil Geniuses. If people missed this game,
Golf clap for this one. This one doesn't get the full.
I don't know.
I realized that might be really annoying for audio listeners, Mark, so I
As-
didn't do that.
Well,
That's
That
what
was
I,
probably horrible. Anyone wearing headphones, blame Marksy.
yeah, I'm sorry for your loss.
Yeah.
you shouldn't have.
Actually, they can't hear this.
Hearing
so,
loss.
Yeah, they can't hear anything. after that.
Alrighty, Bwipo Sett versus EG. Counterpick came in. Everyone was excited. It was the first time we'd really seen Sett into Gwen this split, as far as I can remember.
First time we saw Sett, period. I'm pretty sure.
Top, yeah. I don't-
No one's playing. Sett top.
Huhi played
Set
some
top, though.
support games.
yeah, but
So we
I-
did see some set.
I think this was the first time we'd seen the Sett counterpick top. We're all like, oh, we're excited to see how this matchup goes.
You sound.
But sometimes it, like it doesn't actually end up being that cool, and it's like a 10 CS lead. This was like, we're diving you level 3 under your turret with your jungler there, getting a 2-for-1. Then they try and gank him to like save top lane.
That-
He turns
yeah.
the 1v2. Everything just keeps going top, and he has like, I don't know, like 8 kills and assists in the first 10 minutes of the game, and the
Yeah.
game is just over.
I agreed and voted for him for this one too, because we've had those games. Every jungler has been there when there's a top laner that gets fed like that. It's either Sett or Alawi or Aatrox.
Darius.
These top laners that can 2v1. And you learn to fear these top laners. So I was very surprised that fear was not was not evident in this game. But I voted for him still because I was like, that's the best individual performance. I want that on my team at all times. I want that to be my top laner. 2v1ing. It's just such a good feeling as a jungler when you see your top laner 2v1 the gank. Not only does the gank fail, but now that you as a jungler are free to do whatever you want on the other side of the map, it's actually tremendous.
It's really cool, and I mean, I think it's made more cool by the fact that like no one plays this, right? So I even just double check because not only was it the only top Sett game in the LCS globally in the top leagues, so like the major regions, there was only 4 played, all split. Top Sett game. So no one's playing this. 369 played it twice, Genix played it once, and then Bwipo played it once, right? So that's it for the Sett. And it wasn't just this like, oh, okay, he picked this off meta thing and it was okay, like you're talking about. Like he was the game, right? Like he was the focal point. He absolutely dominated. And I think it really kind of like encapsulates a lot of what I love about Bwipo as a player is that he is not afraid to like really go for these aggressive picks and go at you. And he has that kind of killer mindset that I think makes him good at Sett, also makes him good at Olaf, and makes him good at when he played top Rengar, and like a lot of these niche picks that are like Bwipo classics.
Yeah, and I think he played it well when you guys talking about like champion fantasy of Aatrox. For Sett, it's you get hit, you get really low, you get that fatty haymaker shield, you kill someone, your healing starts coming in. Like he actually had to play it very well in a couple of these to outplay where he's getting like double digit procs of like he's at like 50 health or something when he props W and then gets a gore drinker right after to go like way back up in health. So he played it really well, and that is like that's what Sett's supposed to look like if you're smurfing on kids.
Yep. Who's our runner-up?
Runner-up is just fresh off this weekend, Inspired's Vi versus Cloud9. I think everyone should remember this one. It shouldn't be that hard. He probably just won MVP because of this game. Of course, the rest of the season.
Okay, he won MVP. He was already going to win MVP.
This one just removed any doubt.
This one, like we said on the cast, it was like the end of the year. Everyone's like, okay, fine. So everybody thinks Inspired, but what about, what other dark horses or runner-ups for the MVPs?
It was a victory lap.
This was Inspired just saying, no, shut up. This is my award.
The 1v3 was obviously huge, but the entire game from him was actually just like a masterclass on Vi because he had to weather I hate playing Vi personally. I know she's like strong in the meta.
I love it.
I know you love it, but like I just feel I'm bad. So whenever I play Vi and you miss your Q or something, you're like, I'm a useless champ now. I'm just in here and I'm gonna get messed up. And he also had to survive some like the early pressure where they burned the flash on, I think it was the invade that came in. And he like weathered the early storm, started getting fed, and then he got to the point where he could do the 1v3 and stuff. So it was actually like an entirely amazing game from him.
Yeah, for me, it was actually hard to choose an inspired game. And since this one was freshest in everyone's memory, I was like, yeah, sure, just go with that one. You know, you got a 1v3, bunch of kills and stuff. But this man has been amazing all split long. So well-deserved.
There was so many good individual performances that I think this award was super, super hard. And honestly, there's probably like 10 or 20 other games
we listed
that,
a lot
like,
for
you
this one, I
could
remember.
think about.
Yeah.
Even just like ones that popped into my head. Like I was like, oh, the Luger Draven game where he had like 10 kills super early. Takui had an incredible Talia game. Abadaga had some like monster Azir games. His roaming Silas game was super, super good too.
Contracts had some poppy games.
Contracts had some incredible games. Jensen had some 1v9s. Like a lot of players. Danny had incredible games. A lot of players had these really monster games. So that one was super hard. Bwipo as well had like what, the 11, 12 kill GP game where he was like absolutely 1v9ing.
An Olaf game.
Yeah. So there was like a lot of, crazy individual performances.
I mean,
Be interested to hear what the fans think is like the best one.
This is a very prestigious Divey award, and
it is
it's very hotly contested. So I mean, just speaks to the quality.
Everybody wants them.
Quality of this
Everybody
show,
wants a Divey.
quality of this
I'm
award.
sure every single person is on the edge of their seat watching this. All the pros are like, am I going to win the Divey this time?
They've been waiting since the dive came out, for years, even though we didn't have dive.
Make sure to tag the winners too, because they actually probably haven't watched this. And now they'll be like,
no, they're watching right now. They're in the audience live.
Yeah, actually right there.
Yeah. The entire
right now.
LCS, all the pros.
Can we get a shot of them in the crowd? You know how they always do in the award shows where they show Denzel Washington, like clapping. I feel like it's always him.
All right, what's our next award, Mr. Isaac?
All right,
Azael,
this one should go to a more somber note. It's the most tragic moment of the split. And
Silence,
the winner,
please.
Well, moment as well, to be clear, does not indicate just in game.
does not.
Yes.
So unfortunately, the winner is the river trade.
This one, we all agreed this had to be it, because not only was this tragic from the initial standpoint of, oh my goodness, Dignitas are giving up. They're selling off their best player. Sad for them. It was also tragic for Golden Guardians, who made the purchase, because they didn't win any games until they actually then matched up with Dig with their very last game to buy one win.
And they were getting blasted that whole game.
And it may or may not have probably caused their GM to get fired. So there's just tragedy all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, that plus they also had gotten rid of, they had traded Chime to TSM right before it. They had the leader swap in. It was like the avalanche that began with the river trade that kind of was the end of Golden Guardian season, as well as Dignitas's. And
you know what's funny?
Golden Guardians is in playoffs.
I know they're in playoffs, but I meant like to the end of the season.
What's funny to me is when the news for this was announced, I'm pretty sure I remember my take was that it was a win-win scenario because Dig get paid. And I was like, great, they can look for, new talent for next year. They got a lot of money. They cut their losses. And then Golden Guardians were going to get way better and have their run too.
That's why it's especially tragic, because there was the bed of the seed of optimism where I'm like, this might actually make Golden Guardians go on a little run.
We were really positive about it. I was thinking, could Golden Guardians get like 6th? Like that would be really good, right? Like could they jump up a couple of spots here? Because at one point, I think they went 4-5 in the first half. They went 1-8 in the second half, only beating Dig, who they took River from.
The only reason they won.
And that one was like
they literally
beat them
bought
when
one
they had Soul, Elder, and Baron. I'm not sure if Baron was still active at the same time, but like that was a game they should have lost, right? So this was definitely a tragic moment. All right, we got the runner-up is the inspired Elder Steal. This absolute monster throw was against Immortals, if I'm recalling it correctly. Immortals was massively up. Looked like they're going to win this game. Immortals is improving. Immortals is going to take down a big jog, right? Like it was after the week break, I believe.
It was after the TSM game too. So it was like, oh, maybe they're becoming good.
Yeah, the first week back after that break, they had a couple really close games. And you're really starting to believe they're almost going to take down EG. In comes Inspired, steals the Elder. This could also be a very, non-tragic play for EG fans, but for Immortals fans, it was tragic.
Yeah, that it's funny that we have it in here labeled as the inspired Elder Steel, because from that point of view, it could be one of the best plays of the split. EG were about to lose, inspired stole Baron, they saved the game, and they just win off of that. But it's from the Immortals point of view, and this now I remember this was also a game where Revenge was popping off. This was another one of the like, oh my God, we're building this. Like Revenge is having so many good games. He was Fiora, I believe. He was the most fed member. Inspired not only goes in and steals the Elder, but he jumps back out. He survives and he draws over. He distracts Revenge, who's their most fed member. And he jumps out of the pit to try and kill him. Inspired bonks him, heals him off Divine Sunder proc, goes back in, lives, and then Revenge, the most fed member of Immortals, is away from the team fight also, and they just completely collapse and lose the entire game off that. And so it's this moment where you're like, oh no, there was so much building for Immortals. They had this momentum behind them in the league, in the standings, in their games looking way better, and they were about to take down #1 evil geniuses. And then they don't.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then you have an honorable mention here, Mark.
I had thrown this out as an option. I don't know if we need to cover it, but it was just...
Okay, I wasn't going to. Because I was like, that's not tragic.
I mean, it was tragic because Philip was this young, promising kid coming into top lane, building up his reputation. He was surprising people. No, not anymore. He's the scourge of the community now. But he was someone who I think a lot of people were excited about. And then we flew a graphic that was talking about...
I am still excited.
You can't be.
You're not.
No, you're not. You're confused is what you are.
Yeah, he's in a day.
Everyone was so excited. They ran a graphic behind us about his favorite anime. He had selected Rent a Girlfriend, and then they lose that game. And all that is in the post-game thread is, I can no longer support FlyQuest. I am no longer a Philip fan. This kid, like, I don't care about him anymore. Of all the bad rom-com animes you could pick... This is tragic. We lost it.
A great era for anime. You know, you could have picked Jujutsu Kaisen or Demon Slayer.
Even if you wanted to pick
an easy one,
a romance one.
Yeah.
You have like Wotakoi. You have Love is War. You have... God, I just watched another one. I can't remember what it is now. Whatever.
Love is War is pretty funny.
Yeah, there's a lot of good...
Spy X Family, I've been told, is very cute, but I haven't watched
Spy
it
X
yet.
Family is so good.
It's really good. It's not
so
quite
good.
a romance one, though. There's like a little, but...
No, I was just mentioning that as a good...
Yeah, it is good. There's a lot of great anime you could have listed.
There's a lot. I haven't seen Rent a Girlfriend, but Mark tells me it's not one of them. So
no one says it's one of them,
completely
apparently,
defaulting
except
to
for
trust
Philip.
here.
All right, well, great wrap up there, Mark. Let's move on to the final award of this year's Diveys. I'm so sad it's almost over already. I enjoyed my time with you, fellas. This one is for Best Out-of-Game Performance. And the winner is...
I don't want to make too much noise again. You're like finger. That's not gonna get picked
No one's
up.
gonna hear that. Yeah.
People are like, why is he pausing for so long?
Obi was lightly tapping his fingers on the keyboard.
Sorry,
For
I
those
clapped
who
once.
didn't hear it.
Very sensitive. It is Vulcan for the ratio memes. For ratio, we should have got the exact timeline of for the amount of time where he successfully ratioed every single double if tweet for months. For months on end. Literally anytime he tweeted anything, bam, ratio, and it culminated with the
ratio
the forehead space.
I mean, I just think it's been fun how much he's kind of like adopted the live evil on EG. He like his trash talk, his interviews are really good. The ratio stuff is funny. Obviously, at a certain point, it was like, okay, we get it. You can ratio double lift enough. But he's just been such a fun player. He performs well in game. He's down to do like content and stuff. So definitely deserving of credit. And I think it's a great example of a player really like kind of like building their brand through this kind of style.
And that's where the award come from, is the out of game performance of actually putting in effort and work and building your brand and successfully doing so as well.
Yeah, I think I would have been down to give it to like a really amazing single thing that someone did, but he consistently had some of the best stuff over the course of the whole split too, which I think was the commitment to being a force out of game.
All right, runner up for this. No surprise to me, Bwipo, out of game performance, absolute smurf. One of the best things fans have really latched onto that we started doing is bringing on the pros, integrating them into the analyst desk. Bwipo did everything. He did analyst desk that day. He interviewed. He came on. He cast. He played. They won their game as well. He actually just hit the grand slam.
And
did everything.
I think Fudge should be in there too.
I was gonna say the same thing because the casting
They interviewed each other.
Yeah, the casting and desk we've done before.
Yeah.
And it's always nice. And he's a really smart, eloquent guy. So you're going to enjoy Bwipo being on there. But the interview, and then the next week, Fudge interviewing him. Yeah, that little combo of the interview, I think, was really funny and also kind of insightful just seeing two pros. No one else on camera, I think, is like the thing that I enjoyed about it. Where it's just these two guys shooting the shit, kind of.
Yeah. And both of them are really like opinionated, really intelligent about the game. You know, they're like confident to give those opinions. So I think that made it a lot of fun. And also this shot here, one of the things you'll always notice is after TL games, Bwipo is one of the guys who seems to always make a point of going outside and taking photos with the fans. And that's something that I really respect and really appreciate, is that, you know, he's taking the time instead of just dipping out quickly. He's a popular guy, so obviously a lot of people want to take photos, and he'll obviously hang around and get photos with fans pretty much every single week. I feel like I see him out there if I'm walking out after a TL game or if I'm around after one.
I think it's really important because ever since, you know, us going into lockdown and all COVID restrictions and stuff, there's no organization for this stuff anymore. Actually used to be a really big thing in the live events and coming to LCS and stuff like that. It was actually structured. We'd have like backdrops and times and stuff. And so now it's a lot more on individuals to do stuff like this. And it's up to everybody to do their part.
Yeah. And to be fair, I understand people who are like, I just want to be super safe and wear a mask and not risk getting COVID. Totally. I respect that angle as well. So that's why, like, you know, the lack of an organization where it's like, you must now go outside and meet fans. I get it. But it does for people who are still going out there and giving fans a good experience for showing up in person. I appreciate that as well.
Well, that'll do it for the First Splitual Diveys Awards. This is fun. We want to keep doing it. So if you guys have suggestions, maybe we can upgrade it. I'm hoping we can get some terrible awards to actually go deliver to the pros and get their incredible reactions, because they are going to be ecstatic to find out that they've won these.
Yeah, there's probably going to be a follow-up to this.
There should be.
So stay tuned to just my Twitter.
Only Mark's Twitter.
Don't follow these two idiots.
Okay, fair enough. All right, onwards to some other awards that happen. I mean, no one really
say they're
cares.
important, but I don't think they are.
No one would say that, Mark. It's the All-Pro voting, it's the MVP voting, Most Improved, etc. The End of Split awards, and some of them, I guess, are End of Year because, like, it was Rookie of the Year, Most Improved of the Year. So those were year-long awards. Just happened. We had to submit our votes last night by midnight. So I submitted mine yesterday. I found a couple of the positions really hard. Mid lane in particular, I was like, oh, no matter what I do, I feel like I'm snubbing multiple people. It felt hard because a lot of people across these positions were like more up and down. Do we want to start like top to bottom? How do we want to do this?
I'm down to bounce around a little bit. I like the mid lane discussion because
I'm down to clown.
Yeah. I just felt like I agree. It was the hardest thing for me. And compared to spring, where it felt like the mid lane pool was weak, and like I was picking from people I wasn't that passionate about when I was like debating third team or whatnot, this was the complete opposite experience where I, like you said, yes, people were up and down, but a lot of people were huge factors in the wins that they were picking up when they play well. Like between Palafox, Jojo, Jensen, Abadaga, and Bjergsen, you have 6 legitimate people I think you could put in a 3-person pool.
That's how I felt. Is I started thinking through, okay, who would I consider? And I got to 6 and I was like, shit. Like, how do I do this?
What are you, the summer playoffs now? Gonna have all 18?
I voted for 8 in my 3. I just wrote multiple people per.
Stick their names together.
Abba Bjergsen, I don't know. It was really, really hard, right? So I had to start thinking about like, what did I kind of like value the most, you know, and how am I going to kind of really evaluate early split versus late split? Like Abadaga was hard for me because I thought the first couple weeks he had some really terrible laning performances, and I think he was just like overall kind of forgettable. Even in some of those games, I guess to be fair to him, he did come back and play better in team fights.
His charms in mid to late game were good,
but like I felt like he on a worse team would have just like solo lost his game in a number of those early game teams. So I did kind of hold that against him. But definitely like week 4 onwards, he was potentially the best mid laner in the league, right? Like he was really, really good, had a lot of incredible performances. So it's like you compare that and then you look at Takui, who had some invisible / not great games, and then a whole bunch of like 1v9s. Palafox had some 1v9s and some kind of stinkers. Bjergsen, I felt like was really consistent across the board. JoJo didn't really have to be the reason his team was winning because like EG was really good. He had less super standout performances, but again, I thought was like very consistent and played to what his team needed from him. It became really difficult to kind of compare.
Top lane was also really hard for me.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought top lane was the easiest for me.
I thought top lane was pretty easy too.
Well, are you kidding me?
No.
Okay, explain to me what were your votes?
Do you want to say your mid lane votes first?
Yeah.
Someday, Impact, Bwipo, Dokla. You're definitely snubbing somebody.
I don't think, no offense to Dokla, I think he was a huge change for the team that helped improve them.
Yeah, I didn't think he was top 3.
He was actually not.
You're definitely snubbing then.
Well, I think it was Impact. Or I had Someday, Bwipo, Impact.
That's the exact same as me.
And I don't think it was very close outside.
Yeah, that's how I felt. I felt like Dokla had some good games, but I thought Dokla had way more bad games than those top 3.
And there were times where he was getting abused because CLG was not covering him well.
Yeah.
But I also I can't just pretend that didn't happen, where there was just the games where he was like 0-4 and down 20 CS, which happened like a lot in the middle of the split when they were in that slump. Again, It's not necessarily his fault entirely, but he also had games where he just took bad trades and got crapped on for it.
Yeah, I thought it was.
No.
I thought it was clear.
I snubbed other CLG players who I feel a lot worse about. So to bounce back to mid lane, if you don't mind.
Who was your top lane votes though?
Yeah,
just quickly.
I snubbed Bwipo.
So you put Dokla?
Yep.
Really? Wow. That's crazy to me.
That's crazy to me. Bwipo absolutely smurfed so many games.
Yeah.
And was like...
Yeah, he had a lot of stinkers at the beginning too.
Did he? I
Yes.
feel like when I looked back, Bwipo did not have very many bad games.
He had some games where like he...
Are you kidding? Go back and even look at his interviews. He's talking about his own stinkers.
Yeah, but his stinkers were not on the same level as stinkers to me. And I feel like even those games, a lot of the times there's other horrible things going on with his team. It was hardly like he was the stinker that cost them the game to me.
He did have some bad games, but man, he had a lot of pop-off games and a lot of really good games.
Yeah.
I thought top lane is hard. I think you guys snubbed Dokla.
I think you got the CLG eyes a little bit too much.
I think you snubbed him super hard.
I think you're
not
trolling.
at all,
There's
dude.
no way he's
All
top
right,
3.
Also, to like, I use stats and not like as the entire thing, but Bwipo was legitimately like leading in every laning statistic, and Dokla was like bottom.
I felt like Fudge should be above Dokla, and I didn't put Fudge in.
Yeah, I didn't even consider Fudge seriously, and
What?
Yeah,
Man,
not
you guys
seriously.
just insta cut them all.
I mean, Fudge had quite a few bad games too. I think Fudge's like highs are easily in the top 3, but I just think he wasn't as consistent as those top 3. I thought those like the top 3 were so consistently good for their teams throughout the whole year.
Top lane's a role where you just get screwed sometimes.
Yep.
So like,
And it is
if
how
that
your
happens
team
in
plays
Impact,
around you and
he got
stuff.
bopped by Bwipo. You know, like 1v9 lost the game. Like
There was like those Gwen games or
every top laner is gonna have those games. It's like Dokla had them, Bwipo had them, Someday had them. But I think when I look at like the positive games and their average performance, those 3 were a ahead above than anyone else. And I didn't think it was that close outside of that.
That's how I thought. I think if I did like a 4-5, it would have been probably Fudge 4, Dokla 5.
Yeah.
I think is what I would have think about.
I guess my top 5 were way closer than your guys' top 5.
Yeah, I thought it was like 3. I thought it was Someday, then like a drop, and then kind of like Bwipo Impact on a tier, and then a drop, and then kind of like Fudge Dokla and stuff.
So on to more CLG snubs. I wanted to put Palafox in my top 3 so badly.
For mid lane.
For mid lane.
Yeah.
I thought he was a little up and down, like you said, but towards the end of the split, he was
so many
smurfing on
monster
Bjerg.
games.
He was smurfing on that Akali game. He plays an important role with the team where he will sack CS to meet up with contracts and kind of enable contracts' crazy man style, I think. Where if he's just doing that by himself,
Crazy man style.
dude, he's like, I'm going for invades. I don't care. And then
know.
Palafox is like, well, shit, I guess I got to go too. And like, it actually worked for them.
Yeah.
I thought that they worked together. And when we talked to junglers, there'll be another snub in there. I thought Palafox, he was incredible. Like the negative CSD just a little bit, it was like -2, but he was second or third in goal difference at 15. And he was number 1 in kills at 15. I think he was also number 1 in assists. Like he was just all over the map and like enabling those kinds of plays that they made. It didn't always work. So like, yeah, sometimes it looked bad, but like that's the same way people talk about really aggressive players, like sometimes you lose it and sometimes you win it. He was winning a lot more than he was losing.
Yeah.
And I felt like had a bigger impact in the majority of games than some people like Bjergsen, who was more consistent and had good games as well. But yeah, I snubbed him. I feel bad.
Yeah, that one was hard. I also snubbed Takui.
Same.
Which I was like, damn, because he actually was the reason for like a lot of FlyQuest wins.
He led the league in Pogs player games.
Yep, he had some really, really good performances there. I just thought this one was so much less clear cut than definitely one of the hardest individual like position awards I can remember for All Pro in doing it for a long time. So this one was really, really tough for me. At the end of the day, and I'm not even sure what the public perception is going to be on this one. I kind of just assuming I'm going to get flamed, but I put Bjergsen first. And I do just think at the end of the day, as much as people are going to point to the recent Bjergsen Azir game and who was that against? 100 Thieves, right? And kind of flaming that one. Overall, Bjergsen just does everything I want from a mid laner. He basically never dies. He puts out good damage. He consistently has good laning. Like he is a team fight threat, right? Like he gets some solo kills. He kind of just does what you need, right? When I look at like what I want most from like mid and bot, it's people who are just like so incredibly consistent and, you know, always putting out damage, never really being the reason that you lose the game.
Kobe's face palming.
Yeah, I knew some people were gonna put Bjergsen first, but I didn't know you were gonna do it.
Back.
I think he deserves it.
Oh,
What was your?
I put JoJo first.
I put Abadage first. I think Abadage deserves it. Yes,
Yeah.
he had
some
it was only
really
the
bad-
first 2 weekends. I thought about it, and it was only the first 2 weekends of summer.
Yeah, for me, I was not super impressed with him. And the first game I remember being really impressed with him was his Silas game, and that was the end of week 4.
And he's also had the best individual mid lane performance for a single game
second.
for multiple single games.
I put Abba second.
I put Abba second.
I had.
Wait, did you pick Bjergsen first too?
Bjerg 3. No, I said JoJo first.
Oh, interesting. So we just have JoJo and Bjergsen flipped, and Abba both second.
So the
the same
JoJo
top
reasoning to me was, and I did talk to EG staff, and maybe that
I almost didn't even put JoJo in my top 3 because I just felt like he wasn't actually the reason that they were winning a lot of the games. But then I was trying to like, what am I marking against him? Because he kind of did everything the team needed.
So that's exactly the reason. Like same things you say about Bjergsen. I just don't think we associate with JoJo about doing all the little things better. And I think
he does do it really well.
In Spring Split, he was like the laning monster, and he kind of tunneled on laning, and you would see him do dumb shit sometimes because you could see that he was trying to push his lane as far as it could possibly go. And some of the EG staff were saying he's become, you know, he's done a lot less of that. And so his CSD is not as dominant as it was. It's still good, but he's focused a lot more on vision control and working with Inspired and setting him up. And when I think back to his games, they're almost all good.
I almost put him on my most improved award for my third vote for most improved.
I was thinking about that
even though he was already so good, because the difference, exactly, if you look at the beginning of spring compared to even just after coming back from MSI.
Who was your top 3?
Really big improvements. I can't remember right now. Abadage was first. I think I had Takui in there somewhere. I can't remember if it was 2 or 3.
And then did you?
I don't remember who the other one. I don't. And maybe I had Bjergsen 3 or something like that.
So you didn't do JoJo.
Maybe I had JoJo third. I can't remember.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a tough one. I think, really, I mean, we didn't even talk about Jensen. Jensen to me was the easiest of the 6 to kind of cut out, it felt like. But this was really, really competitive for mid lane in this split.
For sure. Jungle also was probably my second hardest. I don't know how you guys felt about Jungle. I did feel like there was a pretty clear top 3, but that there were people outside the top 3 who had good spots.
I thought Jungle was really easy compared to mid and top lane. To me, mid and top lane were the hard ones, and all the other ones weren't.
This one to me was
if you didn't put inspired closer, I would definitely say you could change Santorin. You could change third.
I think I might have done Santorin over closer, but I had the same top 3.
Santorin, I think I could understand people's arguments for 3, right?
Exactly.
Like saying,
you can argue
Contracts
3
was like really good, you know, like, but really beyond Contracts, I mean, Blabber had more bad games, I feel like, than
Blabber was the one that I was wiggling with Santorin. I can't remember which one I put third.
I think Blabber and Contracts were the ones that I was thinking about, but this one didn't feel like such a struggle as mid lane did to me.
Yeah, definitely not.
No,
especially because 1-2 was so easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like if you didn't put inspired and closer, you're trolling.
Yeah, I might have put Santorin over it because I just felt like TL was kind of a bad team, like good players, obviously, but like bad teamwork team.
Yeah.
And Santorin still actually was good in that environment. Closer's a monster mid to late game. His early game is sometimes like not as proactive as someone like a Blabber, but then his team fighting is just so good. I really appreciate how good he is in the mid to late game, which is where sometimes junglers don't stand out. Contracts for me is like the complete, just like, again, the madman who like probably had some of the best, him and Inspire probably had the best individual jungle games.
Blabber is up there too. Think about like the Olaf
he
game
had a
and
couple
stuff,
good
man.
ones,
Like
too.
Blabber's best games, I think, are the best games from jungle. Like because he just does the crazy.
Really? I think Inspire's
Maybe
best
not this
games are
split.
the best games,
Maybe not
bro.
this split, but I just mean as a whole. When I think about like a jungling and an A, when I think of Blabber's most dominant games, like to me, like when he won his MVP and stuff, all those Olaf games or anything where he's just like solo running over the game.
I mean, even
Inspired
this
is
split, he had
absolutely a
one like
beast.
that.
I'm not even gonna try to argue that split.
Don't mess with my jungle church of Inspired.
No, I mean Inspired is runaway first place, runaway MVP.
Okay.
But just to me, it's like maybe I should say the most fun, whatever. Like the most fun when I think of Blabber's best is just like because he has 10,000 CS and and he 20 kills and he's just 1v9ing the game on Olaf and it's fun to watch.
Yeah. I mean, I think we all agree that there's a lot of good junglers, but I think the top three were kind of what we were saying about top lane, where there's 3 and then 4, 5, which were good, but I think we're all sounds like the same page.
It'll be interesting for bot and support as well. So for bot lane, for me, Danny was number 1 by so much, and it's not even close. Like I actually think Danny was so good this split. Like the amount of damage he puts out, like DPM is like stats aren't everything, but DPM to me is always interesting to look at. And like he was so far and away number 1 as far as like his damage output in fights. Like when you watch this guy play in fights, like he is just 1v9ing some of these team fights, right? His team plays incredibly to protect him and to enable him. But like he has become such a win condition for AG, I thought way more so than JoJo this split, where it's like Inspired is getting his team ahead and setting him up. And then the way that Inspired and Impact play around him in team fights is incredible, but like Danny is just an absolute beast. And I think it says a lot about this like super young player that the best team in the league's win condition is him, and they put all their gold into him. They put all their last hits into him, like all their kills. They give him all the towers. They give him everything because they know that he just absolutely delivers in these team fights.
Who else did you have there? Because I had Berserker and
FBI.
I'm trying to remember if it was, I think it was FBI.
I did Luger 3. So I did Danny, Berserker, Luger.
I see a little twinkle, a little CLG eye.
Yeah.
Oh, I see a little CLG eyes.
This one, I know, it was funny because I was talking to Mark, and Mark was like, I feel so bad about snubbing Pal Fox because I can't get any CLG in there.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can get some CLG in there. Because I actually think, to me, FBI is good. Hans, I think you have to consider as well. But it's kind of funny because it's like Hans.
What's funny to me is that I would have been more on that previous split because I think CLG relied on Luger way more previously. This split, because again, I think Dokla actually was really good. They got a lot more out of him and Palafox and contracts, and so like there was much more of a like team, burden rather than previously. Remember, previous iterations of CLG were like, guess what? You have Luger to carry you. Everybody go bottom lane, get him money now.
So one of the things that really kind of pushed me towards this was he did have some really, really good individual games, right? Like his Draven game was absolutely monstrous. He had like some really good setting games and stuff, but it was also like his flexibility. I actually thought it was a big part of CLG's success was the fact that, like one day they can be playing Seraphine bot, the next day they can be playing Draven bot, the next day they can be playing Twitch, right? Then they can be playing Senna. Like they actually had a lot of diversity from their bot lane. And even like you think back to the early weeks, like the Enchanter stuff and whatnot, they are able to bring that back and actually be Cloud9 with it really recently. So he had a lot of flexibility, and I did think he actually performed well in team fights. I thought their laning was like relatively good overall. So to me, he performed similarly to like FBI as far as like the later stages, but I kind of gave him bonus points because I thought he let them do things in draft that some of the other ADs didn't.
So I went with FBI. I felt like his champion pool made people not realize how good his actual laning was, because he played 3 games of Senna. I think he played the most of anyone.
Yep.
And it was these fasting numbers where your goal difference isn't good, your CSD is not good.
Yep.
And like he's still kind of even. And they had 3 wins on Lucian. He was undefeated on it. I felt like they were the only bot lane in the league that could play Lucian Nami and actually win with it. They were actually dominant when they wanted to be. His team fighting was really good. I felt like he was incredible this whole split for the most part. There was a little bit of like not quite as good at the beginning of the split, but after that has been popping off.
Yeah, I had FBI in too.
Yeah, so I had FBI. Berserker, I feel like I just want to, no offense to Zven, I think Zven had a good split in the end, but there was still like that ramp up time at the beginning where he had like the turbo int games as well as the good ones. And I think Berserker has been like having to lane with people who have not always been great in their position yet.
Can you see him trying to work out the language?
I thought Zven played really well this split.
I think he got there, but if you go back and watch some of his early games, like he just got crushed. And I think he plays lane well, but I also don't know. I would love to see him with someone who's just like a dedicated support player. And I think Berserker's team fighting is insane, as we already know, but his laning got a lot better this split. They were up there basically 1-2, 2-3, I think, in a lot of the lane.
And you still give some credit to Zven for that though too. I think if you're talking specifically about lane, right? It's like a lot of people talked about, like they were bad in lane because he doesn't have a good support, and then they change the support, they do way better in lane. It's like, you know what I mean?
Well, yeah, he deserves some credit, but I also think Sven didn't bring in my all-pro voting, so that's, I think, for me, like I think there's a lot of better supports than Zven as a support, not to shade Sven's entire career, but like he just role swapped. I can see things that he doesn't do quite as well compared to like a Huhi or whatever. And so I personally felt like, especially the fact that I didn't feel like they took a lot of lane dominant. I mean, they did play a lot of like Lulu and Yuumi and stuff.
Some more scaling, yeah.
Yeah, but like, so I thought Berserker was insane. Han Sama had incredible stats, but they just like spammed a lot of lane dominant stuff and then would like not play well, in mid to late game. So he was an easy leave off for me, despite how good their like numbers looked.
Yep.
Supports.
This one would be interesting because
I put Vulcan one.
I think Vulcan's.
I think Vulcan is the easy one,
yeah.
And then the next 2 I think are harder. So I did Aphro at 2, and I think I did Zven at 3. I actually thought Zven played quite well. I thought it was really hard at 3. I thought Aphro had a monster split. I thought he played really, really well for FlyQuest, and I think is like such a key component to their wins. I do think I maybe snubbed Huhi. Like that was the one I was debating a lot, but I was pretty impressed with Zven actually. I thought he played a lot of his games very, very well, but it's difficult, right? Like it feels like Aphro, I just think his team relies so much on him for success. Vulcan, I think, was like the best all around and most consistent. And then 3, I thought arguably there was a lot of people. I even thought Biofrost, even though he's on an awful team, I thought Biofrost individually was like really good, right? And there's a number of people that I thought were really good. CoreJJ not being on felt really weird, but I didn't think Core had that good of a split. Like I thought he
compared to himself, yeah, he did not. I think I still put him in third.
I put him in third.
I think I still put him in third because yeah, compared to himself, he had some definitely big blooper games.
Yeah.
I think.
But
Oh, sorry. I was going to just say, as a whole for Team Liquid, there's a lot of pushback on their players because they're the super team that hasn't really come together. They're still third place. They still had a lot of really good games, and I think part of this voting for me was pushing back.
You say a lot of pushback. I put Bjerg first, Bwipo second, Santorin third, right? So like,
yeah, I'm saying community pushback.
Yeah.
I'm saying that like when you went into post-game threads, it was just constantly bashing Team Liquid.
Yeah.
Like you don't go on Reddit as much as I do.
I literally never go on Reddit.
Yeah, exactly. So like, but like the community is very anti-TL. And I think that like part of this for me was like separating people hate Team Liquid versus like what I'm actually seeing on the Rift. And like they're like, yeah, they are supposed to be a super team. Yeah, they're supposed to be crushing. They're still third. They're still dominating early games. They have some mid to late game team fights, but you watch how they play lane, you watch how they play some of these situations out, and they're insanely talented. And that's for me why a lot of Team Liquid is still like, I don't think I had any of them first team in any position. I think they were mostly
Bjergsen for me.
Yeah, but for me, I had him third, so like.
Yeah. I think Bjergsen is really good. I think you're underrating.
First.
To me, he was just by far the most consistent.
First.
Yeah, I think he was by far the most consistent. I value that a lot.
To that point, though, that's why CoreJJ was a struggle for me because there were other good supports. I had Huhi second. I had Vulcan one. I think Aphro deserves a nod. I didn't end up doing it, but
Who'd you put for third then?
I did Core.
Okay,
I still think he played really well. He just messed up more team fight engages than you're used to seeing out of him.
Support is also interesting because it's so much about like what you value and also a lot like statistics basically don't matter for support, right? It's a lot of eye tests. It's a lot of what you think the player is bringing to the team and this sort of thing. So it is really interesting, right? Like I think Cores is one of the best players in the league. I don't think he played one of the best splits, right? Like my read on TL was their top half was the reason that they were winning most of their games, right? Like their bot lane as big as the names are, I didn't think were responsible for a lot of TL wins, right? I felt like it was more about Santorin and Bwipo and Bjergsen and Core and Hans had some good performances.
And for in the first time in a long time, they were actually responsible for some of the losses.
Yeah.
And you're like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's what sticks out in a lot of people's mind is just seeing Core lose them a game. Like this 100 Thieves one, his movement was not very good, and I think people are not used to seeing that out of him. But when you look at the totality of the split,
also it's interesting because I know Zven is new to support, obviously having role swap, but also having spoken to a few different players and a few different teams. A lot of people were like speaking really highly of him to me, and I think it made me start thinking of him in a better and better light. But no, I did really have a lot of trouble with support. I mean, I felt confident about Aphro and Vulcan. 3, honestly, I didn't really feel very confident about. That one was really tough for me.
I think I think Huhi just played really well. I don't know if you have anything to say about him, but for me, I thought he just did everything I wanted support to do without many of those standout lows of like, wow, you into that one.
Yeah. I had Vulcan, Aphro, Core, I think. But I understand the argument.
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess I just liked 100 Thieves bot lane as a whole.
Yep.
I had FBI in there.
I don't think FBI, yeah. I don't think we really need to talk about MVP voting because I feel like that one was pretty clear.
It's inspired.
It's inspired, right? I feel like everyone thinks that. Did you guys think? Do you want to talk about it at all, like runner up or anything? Like to me, it was Someday. I don't know if you guys.
I put Someday.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if the 1-2 feels pretty clear.
3 as well felt so far behind them that
3 I didn't even care.
I almost didn't.
I almost declined to vote. Yeah.
I just was like, I'll pick someone from TL who I thought was like the biggest benefit for them, and then for me that was Bwipo. But like, it's not like I have a strong case. It was just like I felt like he was Team Liquid's best player over the course of the split.
I was really debating decline to vote. I can't remember if I put Danny or decline to vote. I honestly can't remember.
I don't like doing 2 from the same team.
Yeah, I know it felt weird, but I was just like, man.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree
this is
with
like
it.
how they kind of build their team, and I did think about TL as well, but I didn't feel that. I don't know. It was.
It's
hard.
not interesting. Yeah. Everyone knows Inspire's going to win that. The more interesting one is, 2 interesting ones. Coaching staff, just to hit on quickly, as well as the most improved. I snubbed CLG. I didn't put a single one of their players in the top 3 for All Pro, and I just felt so bad about it because I think that just doesn't sound right in my head. Like the 4th place team, like clearly some of these guys are popping off, but I gave them number 1 in coaching staff, and I put 2 of their players on most improved with Palafox and contracts. So there we go.
Yeah. So the most improved. I'm just gonna be honest. I think the restrictions on it criteria were really weird because Dokla doesn't qualify for most improved, and that's weird. At the end of the day, it was you needed a certain amount of games played,
it was
including lock-in.
Yeah.
And so he didn't have enough, which I feel bad about. He for sure should be in most improved. He definitely shouldn't be an All Pro, but what are you gonna do? But like. He deserves that. I also think it's gonna be weird because next year he probably won't win most improved either because it's going to be like comparing this year to next year, right? So unless he makes a massive leap, but I think he should have been in there. Palafox and contracts were like slam dunks to me. Again, if I did 3, it would have been Dokla, and like that's kind of like what I care about. It would have been those 3 guys on CLG, and I think that speaks so much to their improvements. Coaching, I always decline to vote. I just don't feel like
for the first time ever this year, I actually declined to vote one of the votes, and I declined to vote on the coaching staff. Usually, I still do it. Yeah, usually every year I still vote for it. But I've just been exhausted by it because it's literally all just rumors and side conversations and things that you get third hand from person to person talking about them inside, and like
And even when I talk to multiple players on the same team, sometimes they wildly disagree on if their coaches are good or not. And I'm just like, the teams, I don't get to go and listen to the coaches coaching and watch them, right? So like, I mean, you can do it based on drafts, you can do it based on different things, but sometimes the players are driving the draft. So for me, it's really hard. I have no problem with the award. And I think it's cool to like, to me, it's kind of the like, your team did X amount better than we expected.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
It's like, oh, you did better than we thought you were going to do.
Yeah. But it's hard to pin down, you know, it's like, is that the GM? To me, it's like, it's more cool almost as like a team award than like a best coach award. You know, it's like a congratulations CLG as an organization. You like overshot expectations the most, you win.
That's kind of why I actually changed this year and I just declined to vote instead, because I feel like it takes away, in a lot of cases, it is, you know, a player is managing a lot of relationships and doing the some in-game shot calling that's way better than people thought it was, or, you know, something like that, right? And so it's kind of assigning value to some nebulous thing that is a very, very high chance of being misassigned because you don't have data.
I don't disagree with anything you said, but I also just don't really care.
Yeah.
It's a fun.
I said, I used to always vote for it anyways.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah, that's how I feel. Like, I don't blame people who want to abstain. For me, I'm like, I don't care if I get it wrong because I don't have any information. It's fun. Like, I'm just.
That's how I approach all the awards.
Yeah. I mean, I have some obligations.
I don't spend that much time.
So All Pro, I do spend time on, and I check everything because I actually care. Because when we do these All Pro, when we do like the top 10 lists, you see like 6-time All Pro brought up and stuff like that. I care about that a lot. Coaching staff of the split, no one's like hiring a coach if they won. Some people might because they're bad teams, but like you shouldn't be doing that. You should be doing due diligence, not what I voted on. So I really don't care if it's like misassigned. I'm just like, it's fun. CLG overperformed. Here's a pat on the back. Good job.
And I see it as a cool org award, right? Like,
yeah, that's how I see it.
CLG as an organization deserve it. So, and I think that's you know, it's cool that they're probably going to dominate most improved and coaching, because that's definitely deserve that. All right, let's go to the power rankings and talk about how bad I was with CLG.
Yeah,
Mark
speaking of those who underrated CLG.
So this time around,
you underrated them by 3 points.
So Kobe,
I had them the highest still.
We do this
by far the highest,
based on how many positions off you were for like each. So if I put something, you know, second, they get third. You get 1 point. The more points, the worse. So Kobe was first with 14 off. Mark was second, 16 off. I was third with 17 off. So I got absolutely blasted by CLG being way better than I thought.
Yeah, you guys both put them 10th.
Dig being way worse than I thought, because we were actually all somewhat positive on Dig. Or no, you weren't, Kobe. You weren't. Yeah. I
put Dig 10.
Yeah,
big brain.
So us two, we were somewhat positive on Dig. We had them at 6, and they were way worse than we thought. And then what was the other one? I think TSM at 5. So those were the 3 that really got me.
TSM baited me too. I think it's also like, I don't know. So much behind the scenes stuff influenced me so hard with TSM. Yeah. I talked to so many of the players and the coach, and they were so juiced that. That one's for sure.
People
I got led
Dig
astray.
Were doing really well in scrims as well. That was a big one that got me. And I had heard CLG was awful in scrims, so I definitely got baited a little bit by the info. But I'm willing to fully take the L on the CLG one. I really underestimated them.
So I obviously inted CLG. And as soon as week 1 happened, I was like, that's wrong. Eye test wise, you could just see that they were not that bad.
They're obviously not 10th.
Dig, I held out a little hope for over the course of the split, but then it just never clicked and just got worse and worse with time.
Yep.
But what I will say, to toot my own horn a little bit here, those 2 I absolutely inted, fair enough. I had the most zeros, meaning right on the dot. I had 5. And
you also had the biggest miss.
I had the biggest miss with CLG for sure. But wait, how did?
Well, no, because then Azael would also have the biggest miss, because you both put them 10. There's a 6 in there.
Yeah, Azael had a 4.
I'm definitely last anyway.
Yeah, you're last. I mean, I'm not here to like nitpick points.
Matter, yeah.
These might not be 100% correct, but I had a lot of zeros where like I sniped them on the spot, and I had a couple 1s as well. So I had 7 total that were either on the die. Like I actually felt really good, even though my score is not good. I care a lot less about like I got one team horribly wrong, and it changes it a lot versus like I got 7 out of 10 in the league right.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah, for sure.
And I mean, so I felt pretty good actually. I thought I had a great one.
I think for the top half, we all did pretty well. Like that's obviously the more obvious.
You got one more Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4,
6 out
5,
of 10.
6.
Do math.
Yeah, you got one more 0 or 1.
Yep.
That's one more team as a 0 or
Yeah.
1.
Most of mine were,
4, 5,
0,
6,
1, 2.
7,
I had a lot of those. I just got super blasted by a couple of bad ones for sure. Dig and CLG really blasted me. Those ones were the worst by far. But it's power rankings is fun, right? Because it is fun to see. And I think you're catching up to me now in the total wins for the power rankings.
I'm sad because I wasn't here for that episode. I remember when I saw the power ranking episodes go and you had Raz on, I was like, oh my God, mine are way better. I knew during the episode of like, you guys revealing them, I was like, oh my God, I wish I was on that.
I appreciate the number value, but I also care way more again about like generally how accurate the league was. And I think this was a really cool one because even some of the things that were kind of wrong in a cool way. We're like, e.g., we were all like, they might have a hangover, aside for Kobe got them right.
Put them first.
He got them right there. But the fact that they didn't have a hangover and they just crushed was cool. And I liked some of those differences.
And I don't know how you guys feel about this, but I would actually propose that going forward, we do our power rankings for like including playoffs, like finishing the split. Because to me, I think A, it's a more interesting discussion. And B, I think it's more like accurate to like where we think a team will end up. Like, for example, I put EG third because I thought they would have a slow start, but I still thought they were the best team in the league. So it's like I would have bet on them winning the split, but I put them through regular season because I thought they were going to be slow out the gate, which does make kind of like a less interesting way of predicting, right? If you're like, like this team.
I think
we thoroughly discussed this at the beginning, and so that's on you.
I mean, I personally,
of course, but I just think it's more of a fun prediction.
I think it's more fun to do it this way because there's like more restrictions on it. Where if I'm just basically predicting who I make worlds at that point, a regular season underperformance suddenly doesn't matter. Whereas I like having to try and like I got it wrong. EG didn't slump, but I'd rather try and predict EG slumping than EG's getting first again.
Yeah, it's just different.
It's different. We have enough regular things where we say who we think's going to win. Like I like trying to predict end of season regular season.
I'm curious what the fans think about that one because that
would be worth knowing.
Because I do think that like our power
get in those comments, baby.
Kobe wasn't here, but because I did think our power ranking discussion was less interesting because it became we think EG is the best, but we're going to put them down a little bit because we think they're going to be slow out the gates because they want to practice that.
Well, but I think it does matter for some teams. Like C9, you and I had them fourth, Kobe had them second.
Yeah.
And I would say we were more right that the struggles ended up hurting them a lot in the regular season. And I think that was
thought they were going to start weak.
Yeah, and it was a worthwhile conversation. I think they're still weaker than I thought they would be. I was saying back then,
too.
like, they'll probably make worlds. Feeling a lot less confident about that now. But I do think that those conversations help set tones because if you're just like CLG or C9 top 3, you kind of throw out that like path to
the reason I like it is because if you're doing past playoffs, then all of a sudden you're pushing out so far that it seems less connected to the actual like, we're doing these at the beginning of the split.
That's fair.
And it feels just more, I don't know, more relevant.
It's more best of 5 debate too then.
That's still totally fair. You guys are clearly on that side. I'd be interested to hear what the fans are doing more.
What's funny is looking back at this, you both have Team Liquid first, and I'm like, I think you guys are still overrating Team Liquid.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, Team Liquid for me, I have 3 right now. Like if I'm thinking, I think they'll be the third best team, right? I did have them at first. They're worse than I thought. But I definitely think that they would be, probably third or fourth.
We're 70 minutes in. Time to do the playoff previews.
All right.
Well, fortunately, I don't know about you, but I don't have a ton to say for FlyTL. As much as we were just saying, they're underperforming, we overrated them.
Again, I have them underperforming at a solid third.
Yeah, I have them underperforming probably at third right now as well. And FlyQuest, hey, great split. Did better than I thought you would a little bit, but...
All right, for some interesting discussion for it then. To inject some here, because I think we all will predict Team Liquid over.
Yeah, everyone's going to predict.
Do you remember Fudge doing the top lane rankings for himself?
With Philip super high.
And he put Philip up there with basically the immovable, all-pro top laners.
Yep.
And to me, that was... Because he did this...
Right?
He did this... What week was it? Because he did it a few weeks before. It was decently early as well. And that to me was the most interesting thing of that whole discussion by far. And I do think Philip has performed really well. And it spoke to me even of, some further like scrim experiences and deeper 1v1s with him that I was really excited for.
I mean, Philip has just actually been good, right? Like I came into this split thinking he was going to get absolutely turbo stomped in lane every game. Everyone from Academy was telling me, yeah, he's got a bad laning phase, even for Academy, right? The games I watched were not that pretty in Academy. But he really, like, by the end of the split, we were talking about this, I think, in our TriCast, right? Like, he's almost even on CSD now at this point. And it's like, I was like, damn, like he's actually
playing skill matchups and going even.
Yeah, like he's picking aggressive stuff. I feel like he plays team fights well. I feel like he kind of has that killer instinct, right? Like
sometimes too much on that cannon, way ahead of his team.
Too much, yeah. But I actually really, really have enjoyed watching him, and I think it's super cool that FlyQuest grabbed like basically a fully unknown player as a 19-year-old rookie, slammed him in a top lane, and have had a really competitive split, right? I think that's super impressive. I think when I'm looking at this matchup, the reason I find it so difficult is that because I think Bjergsen is so incredibly consistent, like I feel like it's going to be hard to see Huhi just like blowing out Bjergsen in this series. And that's kind of like how I would maybe see them winning. Santorin as well is so consistent, right? So it's like, can Jose really in a best of 5 just like dominate this guy? I just struggle to see it. So I struggle to see the ways in, right? Bwipo, I think, is going to be really hard to prepare for in playoffs because he has so many different picks and so many different styles. So to me, it's like the win conditions for FlyQuest are usually more on mid jungle. And Huhi, as seen by having the most player of the games of the split, like he kind of has to have those monster games. But I just think it's gonna be very difficult to play around Santorin and Bjergsen and be able to like get the best of them in a series.
The way that FlyQuest wins would not surprise me, even if it happens once or twice. I don't feel like Team Liquid's that clean that they won't drop a game. Maybe, like I'd probably predict 3-1, but. It's like, yeah, Takui has one of his pop-off games. Then you have Jose Dioto playing decently well. Philip, maybe, his team fights are good and their bot lane went even and didn't lose lane that hard. Because I do think the scary thing about Team Liquid is even though their mid to late game is not great, they still have an insane early game. And you kind of have to weather that, come out the other end healthy enough to then start winning when Team Liquid's at their worst. And you can see teams like 100 Thieves who have really good laners still go down 4K against them and then have to win in 5v5s off really good playmaking. Just this weekend, like I don't know how many teams actually do recover that game against Team Liquid.
And FlyQuest doesn't have a great early game.
And FlyQuest does not have a great early game. But a lot of their strengths are working as a team.
Yeah.
And even their best players have quiet games like Takoi. So yeah, I can see a game where more things work out for them and they have a good draft and they beat Team Liquid that game. But 3 times, I think the early game is just too much to overcome.
I just see Bjergsen pushing matchups in every single game and doing nothing but like AFK shoving the lane so Takui doesn't move.
To me, it could happen. The way that I would see it, because obviously this is the hard mode of trying to see the way that FlyQuest win the best of 5. It's something in draft that they discover for this best of 5. And it's like the Twitch Yumi combo or something like that. But and they're able to maneuver something in the best of 5 draft throughout the series, and that ends up being the lever that they can actually push. If it's something like that, champion, meta shifting, something like that, because we are moving to 12-15 for all of playoffs. I think that could be the angle. 12-15 is not a huge patch.
Yeah.
So there's not like giant swinging changes, but could be something there.
I mean,
like Nilah, I think Nilah is actually good. I think Nilah is being underplayed and underrepresented.
She's weird
by pro players. She's hard.
Yeah.
She takes a lot of time to put in, and they haven't had a lot of time because it's been crunch time for practicing. And even the combinations and synergies with this champion
are weird.
Yeah.
Like no one's playing that much Taric. And that's what is her best.
Yeah, a lot of the low range ADs struggle unless they're like low range dominant ones, like lane dominant ones. So it's weird because generally when I see Nilah have success, it is with like these all ins, right? But I think a lot of people struggle to find the all-ins at the pro level. So they feel like they're just going to kind of get bullied out of lane and stuff and not really find those windows to kind of come back like you can in solo queue where it's way more scrappy.
And I've been looking at Gumayushi and Ruler specifically, like their OPG.GGs and match histories and reviewing some of their games. And they're not even going like shield bow, you know, they're going Gale Force on a low range AD carry champ and smurfing these games, you know, with extremely high win rates. So I think the angle is there. It's just difficult, you know. So if FlyQuest put in a lot of time, you know, practicing some angle like that.
Yeah, I mean that's always I think the opportunity in best of is when you are the underdogs, you've got to come with something spicy, right? You gotta kind of try to find that draft advantage. Because the early game is gonna be really, really tough. I mean, FlyQuest is on average down 200 at 15. TL is on average up 1800, right?
It's number one in the league, I assume, right?
I think so. So you know they're just such a monster team. You know, in the early stages, even just like comparing the plates, on average they get 4.9 plates a game. TL does, which is just like ridiculous, right? They're just farming towers.
They're number one. Number two is C9, as I see on this. It's 830. So TL's almost 1,000 more than their closest
more than
competition.
Double.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy. But no, it should be an interesting one. And if FlyQuest can have those pop-up performances and really compete, I think it'll be exciting. But to me, I think we even talked about this last week, and I don't know if you guys wanted to make the argument because it was like last week we were talking about how I thought FlyQuest was in like a tier below. Do you guys still feel that they're in that kind of tier up with like CLG C9, or do you think that they are like can they make like a lower bracket run, assuming they lose here?
I feel like they are weirdly between 7 and 5. I feel like CLG and C9 are closer. FlyQuest is a step behind, but probably still a step ahead of TSM. But even that, I'm less confident in recent weeks.
Yeah, I'm interested to see because like if they lose, they will have to play TSM.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean they are the 6th place. Like I think they're aptly end the season in 6th place.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that is correct. I would still say that is a significant chance, you know, at overcoming some of them. Of course, 4th versus 6th is the more lopsided of the first matchups that we have in the
3 versus 6.
beginning of the upper bracket. Excuse me.
Yep.
3.
It'll be interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, it'll be interesting to see how they do in lower bracket. That's what I'm more kind of curious about. I mean, if they pull off an upset, that would be crazy. But like, I think should be competitive against TSM if they lose, and then if they win that, then they would play, you know, potentially, you know, like a CLG or C9, who we are assuming is going to win the series against Golden Guardians.
Yeah.
All right, should we go to the other one?
Yeah, this is the spicy one. I think
this one is really hard actually. Because both these teams were so volatile. Mm-hmm. Both of these teams, I could actually pick either team, and you could just point to a game like even a couple weeks ago and be like, "Look, they're dog shit," and I'd be like, "Damn, you got me."
Or they're incredible.
But then I look at the next game and I'm like, "Look, they're Smurfs," and you're like, "Damn, you're right."
I also feel like it's a microcosm of like the CLG storyline they've been pushing back against. Like, oh, these old names that people just latch onto and assume they're good. Like one team is this upstart of.
Is C9 really that many old names?
I would say. Jensen, Blabber, Zven.
Blabber's old. What the?
Well, I mean, old in the sense that like he's
Zven.
Yeah.
okay,
I'll
but
give you Jensen.
Old,
Zven.
not as in like
that's maybe the best I can do, Mark.
Established.
Can you throw in a Fudge for me?
I could not throw in a Fudge.
I should say established.
Fudge is like 19 or something.
Yeah,
he's like 20 something now. He's
is
old.
He?
He's over the hill.
I'm gonna look it up.
But I mean, he's been playing since he was 3 years old from Australia.
My bigger point: old, maybe not the best term. Established name. C9 is full of established names. Berkserker is maybe the only like
they're like half full. I don't know.
Well, old.
I'm with Azael on this. Maybe Cloud9 are like they have more established names.
Fudge,
they have a ton of established.
Blabber turned 20 like 3 months ago, by the way.
See, old. No, but Blabber is number 2 on jungle all time list. Like
Blabber is established.
Blabber's established.
Yeah.
Jensen's established. Sven is a supportive new, but Sven is established.
Okay.
Fudge was first team All Pro last year.
Yep.
And Berserker was the hottest, one of 2 of the hottest.
He's brand new.
You've won us over.
Prospects.
Continue.
He changed the goalposts.
He's all pro.
Agree.
How did I change the goalposts? I picked the wrong word the first time. Anyways, I feel like it's just pushing back on that narrative that he's been talking about all split long of these are a bunch of established names that you just assume should be going to Worlds. Like we all said at the start of the split, like C9 has a good chance, and here they are in 5th, looking inconsistent. And like I just feel like it's this perfect little microcosm of like, take them down, CLG. Prove us all idiots.
I mean,
because I don't believe he's still in best of 5.
The C9 has just not had the steady improvement that I thought. Right, like they're not as far off like my kind of like power ranking or whatever. But like I thought that they were gonna start low and just have a steady
Yeah.
incremental improvement.
You were correct in the placement that you put them at for a different
For the wrong
reason
reason.
than you actually thought.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you thought they were going to start lower and end higher, and they've kind of done this.
Yep.
And at the same ranking.
Yeah, so that part is tough for me. I do still think that it's like, I don't know. I still put, like, maybe I'm just a boomer, but I do put a lot of value in having playoff experience. I just think it's different. There's players put more pressure on themselves because they're like the matches feel more important, and that can change how you play. And if you haven't been in those big games, some players just don't play as well, right? So it's like there's no guarantee that the Cloud9 players will play better in those scenarios just because they've done them, but it's an unknown how some of the CLG guys will perform, I think, in that higher pressure situation. And that's why I do give some kind of like credence to experience, right? Like, I think Jensen is going to play like Jensen in playoffs, right? Like he was always a guy who was able to step up in big games. Fudge has been more inconsistent than I expected, but like I still favor Fudge pretty heavily over Dokla as far as like, well, maybe not super heavily, but I think Fudge at his top is better than Dokla. So when I kind of go like position by position, it gets a little bit harder, even though like some of the individual performances were really, really good from CLG this split. I just am not sure if that's what we're going to get in playoffs or not. I guess is my biggest concern.
We get to see after this weekend, you guys will have ammunition to actually say how much I'm overrating Dokla or not.
Yeah.
Because a best of 5, like here,
This
if you get slammed, then you can shoot me full of holes.
Well,
but
this is like my 4-5 for top.
Yeah, but if he slams him, at least it shows that like, hey, maybe he deserves more credit. The teams being volatile too. Both teams have basically 1-1 records against every other playoff team. They both have one team that they're 0-2 against. It's EG for C9 and 100 Thieves for CLG. But it speaks to that ability to kind of beat anyone on a good day.
Teams,
yeah, like on any good day, you guys can kind of beat anyone because you beat EG, CLG. Like, hey, that's pretty good. But I just don't. They're also the bloodiest teams in the league. Like, I
think it's gonna be such a fun series.
This series is going to be incredible to watch because I just don't see a way that these teams play slower. Some teams slow down in playoffs. Like, oh, we're not going to go for a riskier dive just because the stakes are there, and suddenly we're playing a little more scared. Like,
Labber and contracts are cool.
They're not slowing down.
That's why I'm saying this is the most volatile matchup that we can possibly have. And that's why it's so hard to predict, because it could be over in a 3-0 either freaking way. And especially if you're talking about, the different pressures that have been on these players. I think both teams have had to shoulder a lot, even just leading up to this point.
Yeah.
And so when you add the playoff crunch on top of that, it really does put in a kind of a pressure cooker scenario. And since they're both extremely aggressive teams, things can snowball out of control. The Draven and aggressive bottom lane meta as well can cause these like 12,000 gold advantage games
What did I learn from this?
to not even be like a big deal. You're like, oh yeah, it's the Draven game, they snowballed or whatever. If you look at stats backwards, you're like, oh my God, they dumped on this team or whatever. And there's just so many variables here, even within same players. So
I'm really interested to see also, is CLG bot lane gonna bring out like a lot of enchanters and stuff?
Are they Seraphine lanes?
Yeah, like are they just gonna go?
Are they gonna overextend themselves and try too much in the best of 5? Is it actually gonna be an advantage? Are they gonna start trying stuff that they don't exactly have as much time as you need to be able to pull it out on stage? This one's gonna be very exciting.
All right, let's put some money where our mouths are.
Good one.
Predictions. I'm still going C9. I kind of said it before.
Yeah.
CLG.
I knew you both were gonna.
Scared.
I knew you both were gonna.
I want to believe in them, but I'm scared. They don't have any. The person with the most playoff experience on the team is Contracts. I don't think any single other player on that team has won a best of 5. I don't even know if they've played in any.
They have
in different regions.
Academy.
Other regions, but not in. In a major region.
Yeah.
So it's just in some academy I know, but like on stage in LCS, only Contracts has played in one best of 5s. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, but I mean, they've played in a bunch of best of series and
not
academy and stuff.
Nothing in the LCS though to step up in the big leagues.
True. And I understand you being nervous and scared, Mark, and that is normal. I too am scared and nervous, as are all CLG fans.
Yeah.
but I really do think they deserve their spot this year. Their climb up the rankings. That to me is the number one battle of this whole of the split for this team, has been trying to like actually prove and win over and convince people of the reality, and not just being, oh, look, it's crazy Counter Logic Gaming doing those crazy, random victories that they get again. I think the improvements with the team are very real. Yes, it's like we said, they're both extremely volatile teams, but that's why, I could make and convince myself of an argument of either a team, winning this series easily. And I know that both of you are doing Cloud9.
If you can decide with reason,
I'm going to choose the Cloud9 one.
Oh, wait, what?
Excuse me. Baited.
I hope not.
Because I'll craft the CLG one then, because you're also going Cloud9, right?
I mean, I'm actually really struggling with this one, like way more than I thought it was. Because again, I actually don't think Cloud9 is like that good. Yeah. Right. So it's like, if I was actually doing the like, I'm just predicting off of names, I'd be like Cloud9, right? But like Cloud9 didn't look nearly as good as I thought they were going to throughout this split. It's like, I don't think that they're that consistent. Like I wouldn't be shocked at all if CLG wins. I fully agree. CLG is not just like, crazy CLG won some random games. Like they are actually good. I just think the one thing working against them is lack of playoff experience, which again, some players go in their first playoffs and just turbo smurf and it's totally fine. But some players go into their big first pressure games and they just play bad, right? Like they play way more scared. And I do think if CLG loses their aggressive tendencies, if they step on stage and start playing slower, as a result, I'm not sure if that's what they will do, but a lot of players do that when it feels like a more important game. They just pull back. I think they will lose if they do that. And I think that is more likely to happen to them than it is to C9, because C9 has the additional experience. Yeah. That's the only thing that I can really use to separate these two teams, because I think that CLG was like a slightly better team than them in the regular season. And if I'm predicting off of like they're going to play the exact same as they did in regular season, I actually think CLG wins. If I'm predicting off of, I think, C9 is going to play a little bit better because they have experience, I think C9 wins. So it's really, really tough. And I do think it's really cool that like we're not just talking about, Jensen versus Palafox, like what a joke, Jensen's going to clown on this guy, right? Like it's a close matchup. Doka versus Fudge, I do think Fudge, especially Fudge at his peak, I think is better. Fudge at his peak is like top of the league, but he's not there right now. But I think that like these are close matchups against not big names. Blabber versus Contracts, like that's actually a close matchup for this guy who got replaced on Cloud9, got sent to Academy. Like you wouldn't think it would be.
All right,
like,
well, put some money in your mouth, as Mark was referring to.
I'm gonna go C9. I'm gonna go C9. I mean, the number almost doesn't even matter to me. Like
I knew it.
3-1, 3-2. But like
no, this one I fully agree close. That game score or match score or whatever is way too hard.
With how volatile these teams are, they could be like
3-0.
They could be 5% better in 3-0. Just like CLG beat C9 2 weeks ago, and then they lose to TSM in week 8. But I don't think that changes anything about what I think of CLG. They're just like, they're crazy.
I wouldn't be shocked either way. Like
they could 3-0 C9.
I'm actually super, super excited for this. This is one of like the most exciting first round matchups I can remember.
Most exciting 4-5 ever.
Maybe.
Just say it more confidently.
The most exciting 4-5 you will ever watch.
There we go. That's the take.
I'm actually really, really excited for this. So I think it's going to be super fun. I hope that FlyQuest kind of like overperforms and makes that one a bit of a banger too. But this one I feel like is guaranteed to be entertaining. All right. I think that's going to do it for this episode of Dive. Hope you enjoyed the first ever Splitual Diveys. Congratulations to all the winners. I know this is the peak achievement that you have ever had in your entire life.
Never mind. We're all empty anyways.
Mark has some residue. Maybe you can lick it out of there. Oh God, that's horrible. Okay. That'll wrap it up for us for now. And remember, if you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss an episode of Dive. You can also check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Anchor.fm. Keep sending your questions. Use the hashtag DiveLOL. Also, let us know what you thought about the Diveys and what you would like us to do for next split. Give us your Divey Award rundown. LCS playoffs kicks off with Team Liquid Honda versus FlyQuest Saturday at 1 p.m. Pacific. That's earlier than normal, so you got to tune in earlier. Tune in as we kick off the road to Chicago.